Hi there guys, well today we're going to be checking out the new MSI GT73 6RE TITAN SLI. Now the GT series is what can be regarded as MSI's very best in terms of mobile performance. These notebooks are not only built like a tank, but they're designed in such a way to kind of rival a fairly capable desktop PC. So our GT73 is quite a large notebook which carries a 17-inch IPS display providing 4K as the native resolution and is G-Sync ready. And since we have SLI within that naming system, we do indeed have a beefy graphics configuration, bearing GTX 1070s in SLI. Now, as you can well imagine, a notebook which carries such a high spec, some would regard as overkill, and as such we have a steep price tag. It is around £3,000 in the UK, and a quick look over on Amazon.com for you guys in the US, it is currently listed at $3,000 as well, and so quite an investment there. But you know, the CPU, the memory, the storage, the graphics, they're all way up there in terms of high performance, and that is bound to hit your pocket. So this is obviously quite an exciting unit to be taking a look at today. We're going to be exploring it in plenty of detail, doing some benchmarks there towards the end to see what kind of results we can get. So enjoy. Okay, well we're going to start with a quick unboxing on our GT73, and this is the packaging that it arrives in. Now, as you can see, this is rather substantial in size. It is huge, and next to that smartphone there, you can see just how big it is. Now on the front there, we've got a depiction there of the notebook itself, while over on the back, if I just lift that around, you can see there we've got a huge listing there of all the features, some of which we're going to be going into as we go into our video. Now inside the box we have the notebook itself, which as you can see has the foam padding around the sides to keep it nice and protected, and we have that nice fabric sleeve. And we also have this large cardboard box which, as you can see, carries all the bundled accessories. Now you can notice there we've got two power packs. Unfortunately, because we've got 1070 SLI, there is a requirement there for extra power, and as such we need two power packs, which as you can see are here, and we've got an adapter which is on the end, which has the two sockets. Now obviously you would need two outlets on your actual notebook, so instead MSI include this power pack which this plugs into, and then you've just got that red one which goes into the laptop itself. So a bit of an unfortunate thing that to have to lug around in your bag or whatever you're transporting it in, but we've got these power cables here which go with that power packs. We've got the UK ones there, so those are obviously dependent on where you are located. And then lastly we have the documentation, which as you can see we have the driver CD, the utilities, we've got the user guide inside there, and all that warranty detail. Okay, and here is the GT73. Now for those with an eye for detail, you'll notice the new GT series has only had a few minor adjustments to the physical design. So MSI has retained that professional styling, but has added in elements there which mark this notebook out as being designed for the gamer. And since this notebook carries a substantial hardware spec, the height is notably thicker than other notebooks. And speaking of which, here are the dimensions for our GT73. It is 428mm wide, 340mm deep, and 49mm high. And then on the weight, you're looking at 4.4 kilo with a battery. Taking a look at that lid on our GT73, we have a lovely brushed aluminium surface, which is flat, but it also holds two glossy red strips on either side. As we'd expect from an MSI notebook, the dragon badge there sits right in the center, and it illuminates once we hit that power button. So running down the left edge, we have a large vent for the internal cooling, triple USB 3 ports, and some gold-plated audio jacks, which include HP out, mic in, line in, and line out. And over on the other side, we have another two USB 3 ports, an SDXC HC card reader, and another vent for the cooling system. So it's great to see plenty of USB 3 ports on this model, but what about the networking and the video outs? Well, they are on the back of the notebook. Due to the thickness of GT73, we have an assortment here of ports at the back. So we have the gigabit LAN, mini display port, a USB 3.1 Type-C, HDMI 2, and the DC in port there which combines with the dual power box. And aside from those ports, we also have two additional vents which will come in handy when trying to flush out that unwanted heat from our SLI configuration, plus the other components. Flipping GT73 over, we have four rubber feet to keep the notebook nice and steady, and as you can quite clearly see, this underside here is heavily ventilated. On this backside we also have a sub and two respective speakers which come courtesy of Dyn Audio. And the only other thing to note is that we've got those labels up at the top, one of which specifies the serial code, which you'll need if you require any technical assistance there from MSI. Now, since we have the notebook on this side, it's the ideal opportunity for us to lift off that panel and to jump inside if I look at those components. Doing so, by the way, does void your warranty. So the processor which GT73 uses is based on Intel Skylake architecture, and it is indeed the Core i7-6820HK. This is a quad-core processor which has a base frequency of 2.7 GHz and which turbo boosts up to 3.6. Now, for the graphics delivery on our GT73, this is by far the biggest highlight. This notebook has SLI in its code name for a very good reason. So inside we have two NVIDIA GTX 1070s, which as you've guessed are configured in SLI. Now, the mobile GTX 10 series chips are similar to the desktop versions. We've already looked at the 1060 mobile version, which is pretty much the same as the desktop version. But with the 1070, the mobile version actually offers a greater number of CUDA cores and features a 40 MHz increase for the GPU clock over the desktop version. So for each card there, we have 2048 CUDA cores, we have 8 GB for the memory bandwidth, 8 GB of GDDR5, and this GPU uses 256-bit interface. And later on we'll be testing out this SLI config to see how it responds there to the latest gaming titles. Now, the cooling system inside our GT73 is quite something. We have a total of 12 copper heat pipes for the CPU and the GPUs, with 4 heatsinks and 2 cooling fans. As you can see, this is a well thought out and planned design, and again later on we will test this out, as it will be particularly interesting to see how those 1070s handle things while under load. For the system memory, we have 32 GB of Kingston DDR4, which operates at 2400 MHz. So that capacity and speed should be ideal for pretty much everyone, regardless of the application. Now, our GT73 has quite an interesting storage arrangement. We have a total of 3 drives, and you can see that the use of space in the design is very elaborate. We have a heatsink which sits over all 3 drives, and this heatsink here has a thermal pad which has direct contact with the M.2s. So firstly, we have 2 Samsung SM951s, which are 256 GB M.2 SSDs. And those are configured in RAID 0 and act as the primary OS drive. So that should give you lightning fast transfer rates in and around Windows, and we'll be testing that out later in the video. Incidentally, there is another empty space for adding in an extra M.2 SSD, but entering inside will of course void the warranty, which is a bit of a gripe. And the bulk of the storage sits underneath this arrangement in the form of a 2.5-inch Hitachi TravelStar 1TB 7200 RPM. This will take care of the bigger files such as your games and movie storage. The battery inside GT73 is beefier compared to other MSI models we've looked at. So this one here is an 8-cell unit, and it is fixed to the notebook, so if during that warranty period it does need swapping out, then MSI tech support will take care of that for you. Now, that battery is going to offer you around 2 hours for very light usage, but if you're watching a movie or playing games, then that will reduce significantly to just over an hour. So this notebook really isn't designed to be used away from that power outlet, and since we do get power saving limitations for the GPUs when the charger isn't connected, it makes perfect sense really to be charged all the time, as you'll get the best possible frame rate without that power saving kicking in. Now, as well as a wired gigabit network connection, GT73 also benefits from 802.11ac along with Bluetooth 4.1, and the component responsible for providing this is the Killer 1535, which is a dual band card, and it comes with quite an assortment of different features, including bandwidth control. Okay, so if we open up our notebook, we have a 17.3-inch display, which is IPS, and on this unit here, we have a native resolution of UHD, which is 3840 by 2160. Now, on a smaller panel, 4K isn't really appropriate, but with a 17-incher like this, it looks great. So as always with MSI's IPS panels, this one is crisp, it's vibrant, and it's a joy to use. And just like other notebooks in MSI's revamped lineup, our GT73 also benefits from that pre-installed profiling system, which can provide you with different modes to suit your own preference. A very handy thing to have built into the notebook. And just above the screen, we have an integrated webcam, which offers 1080p at 30 frames, and that has a mic too. MSI have teamed up with SteelSeries again for the keyboard implementation, and this features custom etching with distinct typography. It is based on a QWERTY design, but as you can see, there have been some slight adjustments. These keys are really pleasant to use and they offer great feedback, and what's more is we also get some LED backlighting too. Now, as we mentioned in the GE62 video, this backlighting is by far the best we've seen. Each of the keys can be tweaked in terms of the lighting and commands by using the SteelSeries engine. This software offers a lot of flexibility, and if you prefer to turn off the lighting altogether, then you can. Running down the right edge, we have the power button, accompanied by a series of additional buttons. There is a button for switching between the 1070s and integrated graphics, a button for enabling maximum fan speed on the fly, a button for launching XSplit, and then the SteelSeries profile switch. So these buttons come in extremely handy for getting quick and easy access to such functions. And here is a demo of how the fans sound on maximum. And then finally we have the touchpad, which blends into the design of the palm area. Navigation with the touchpad is very smooth, and if you aren't planning to use a mouse, then it really is easy to get to grips with. MSI include 2 independent left and right clickers just below. And MSI is also giving the touchpad a glowing border when the system has power. Okay, well we've explored the features both inside and outside, and now it's about time we did a few tests to see how capable GT73 is. So the plan is to firstly boot into Windows 10 from a cold boot to see how long that takes, and then we're going to see what the read and write performance is like for the M.2s in RAID. Immediately after we'll run PC Mark 8, and after that we'll load up some games with a view to seeing how the 1070 SLI handles the latest titles. And while all of this is going on, we'll monitor the CPU and the GPU temperatures, so we'll jump out of our last game to look at that. And during the gaming test we'll also do a quick reading of the noise while the system is loaded, so you get an idea of how noisy the notebook is. Okay, so first of all let's boot GT73 and see how quick we get into Windows 10 from a cold boot. Okay, now that we're in, let's run Crystal Disk Mark to get an idea of the transfer rates from the SM951s in RAID 0. So while we're in game, let's just get a quick reading of the cooling fan noise. The fans here are on auto. Okay, and throughout those tests we've had real-tempered GPU-Z running in the background to pick up on the maximum temperatures, and here they are. Okay, so that is the GT73. Now, a lot of people watching this may think that this notebook is overkill for their own user requirements. Obviously, you know, if you're a casual gamer or if you already have a powerful desktop gaming PC, then this notebook really won't be much use. However, you know, if you do move from place to place, or perhaps you don't have much space in your office, then GT73 is going to be a great notebook really to pick up. There will be a few limitations though on transporting it, as you obviously got those twin charging units and around 4 to 5 kilos in weight to lug around. But as we've seen, you know, the hardware spec on this notebook is nothing short of impressive. You know, it delivers in literally any sort of environment or arena that you put it into. You know, you've got those 32 gig of DDR4, the M.2s in RAID, and those will come in handy if you are handling large amounts of raw data, especially if you're editing videos or photo content. And then we've of course got that star of the show, the 1070s in SLI. Now admittedly some games aren't really optimized for SLI, and that kind of won't make much of an impact on the frame rate. You know, you saw the performance there of Deus Ex, which is abysmal really, showing that this game kind of either destroys hardware or it is in need of quite a bit of work in terms of patching. I know some people have already experienced quite a few issues there with the new DirectX 12 update. Running DirectX 12 for ourselves, we weren't actually able to load the monitoring software to run alongside the tool, unfortunately. Anyway, for games that do work well with SLI, we get some really impressive numbers. You can always switch the resolution down as well, down to 1080p for those ultra settings. For me, I'd be more inclined really to kind of trade resolution for a higher frame rate on such a screen, because there's hardly any much difference really, and honestly those numbers really do jump up. For example, you saw in Doom there 30 frames at 4K Ultra. Well, 1080p Ultra goes right up to 120, so that is a huge difference. So lots of great hardware with this notebook, as well as the G-Sync ready display, extras like the true color screen profiling, customizable keyboard, and so definitely a really impressive piece of kit if you've got 3K lying around. So guys, the full review for this notebook is going to be up on the screen in the description very soon. Over there, even more benchmarks for those that are interested. So thanks for taking the time out to watch this video today. Hope you did find it useful. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe as well, and I'll see you guys very soon.